My question to you this morning, to get you thinking like criminologists, how much crime is there in Northern Ireland? Maybe you know, maybe you don't. There is an exact answer, depending. But how many recorded crimes were there in Northern Ireland for the last financial year? Anybody? How many? 20,000? Actually, last year, as recorded by PSNI, there were 100,000 or so recorded crimes. Now, some of you might think that sounds like a little. Some of you might think that sounds like a lot. In fact, Northern Ireland is one of the safest places to live in the UK. But that 100,000 figure is only if you just accept PSNI at face value, because what we know from any of the crime surveys, some of the stuff we look at, there's anywhere between 50 and 100% more crime happening at any one time than ever is recorded by the police. Does anybody know how many people are in prison at this time in Northern Ireland? What the prison population is as a general figure? About 1,500. So if you're starting to question, well, why is there maybe 100,000 crimes? Why are there 150? Why are there only 3,000 people sentenced? Why is the prison population only 1,500 at any one time, roughly? You're starting to think like criminologists. Defining crime in criminology. We spend an awful lot of our time looking at what we even understand, what we mean by crime, because when we actually look at it, crime changes over place and over time. I think a lot of us through media have very populist conception about what is right and what is wrong. Fast forward close to 60 years, something which was once deemed illegal in society is now heavily protected under the law. And should you commit even a crime motivated by hate motivation, you receive an even greater sentence. So crime changes over place and over time according to societal sentiment, politics, changing cultures. Health fashion, looking at some of the symptoms of why people use drugs in the first place and not and the causes. So that is something which changes. So attitudes to drugs are very, very significant, and they're a big marker about judicial and criminal justice attitudes. And again, that changes over place and time. So just a little bit of an idea. Crime is, there's no such fixed thing as crime. If then we move on, treatment of individuals in the criminal justice system. As criminologists, we spend an awful lot of our time understanding what it means to be a victim. Your needs, my needs, everybody's needs varies according to what has happened, severity, treatment, and how they should be treated within a criminal justice system. We also like to have a look at treatment of particular groups within a criminal justice system as well. The systematic overrepresentation of minority ethnic groups in all Western, European and Western criminal justice jurisdictions, from the Brixton riots of 1981 to the Black Lives Matter protests of 2021. Why is it that particular groups over time are disproportionately impacted and affected and targets, for example, of police activity for reasons other than criminality? And prisons as well, treatment. You know, I think we like to think, you know, prisons are the repository for the bad people in society. But if you're to look in, and as we do, looking at evidence, why is it easier to get drugs in Maghaberry prison than it is alcohol? Okay, how should we treat people who have committed crime? What do they do when they come out of prison? What about the families and so on of prisoners? So these are all issues that we look at in terms of treatment of particular groups and processes as well. Crimes of the powerful, that's an interesting one. I think again, this idea that we're obsessed with individual criminal behaviours. In fact, what criminology is very much concerned with are the power dynamics within society, whether that happens to be large corporations, whether it happens to be in relation to environmental issues, the treatment of worker populations in the production, for example, of clothing, even politicians as well. Do they get away with things which perhaps the rest of the population might not? I'll leave that one for yourself after the leaders' debate last night. That's about crimes, if you like, of the powerful. So it's not all about individual crimes. There are many other dynamics there. And again, I'm not going to go through all these in great detail. I just want to maybe finish at a conflict-related issues, of course. We're after 25 years post-Good Friday Agreement. Have the conflict-related issues in Northern Ireland, somebody mentioned conflict, been fixed? To some extent, yes, but for lots of people in the population, no. Okay, the uneven spread of the peace process and how certain groups still have failed to reap the benefits of that. Never in human existence Have we known more about the behaviours of human beings and be able to sort, categorise and look at that than we have ever had the capacity to do in all of humankind? So what do we do with that information? How do we use it appropriately, ethically? What about artificial intelligence? Can and where should that be used to control people and behaviours? One of the things I would say is one of the big differences you get moving from school, further education perhaps, into university backgrounds. We are all at Queen's, and certainly all the criminology team, we're all what is called research active. So not only do we engage in doing teaching like this similarly, but we're all engaged in our own research areas. And as you can see, I'm not going to go through all these, but we're a 10 strong team here, and we all have our own specialisms, as we are in many cases leaders in our field, and that is what we bring to the classroom, which we'll talk about a little bit more time. Everything from young people and paramilitarism through to substance abuse, risky behaviours, political violence as well, genocides, conflict in Israel, Palestine, my own area, policing and police reform in Northern Ireland, restorative justice, and something which is becoming more prevalent in criminology, trauma-informed criminology as well. So that's what our staff are about, and above and beyond the traditional, some of this lecture style and small group teaching, we get to introduce that and we get to bring that knowledge and expertise to you as well. So I've got a short video clip, okay? Maybe a scene, some of you will recognise that place, just a little bit down from Carlisle Circus in North Belfast on Donegal Street. I'm only going to show you 30 seconds, okay? What I want you to do is watch down here, okay? You see somebody, young person in a grey top. I want you to watch this. Pay close attention. What happens afterwards, and I'm going to ask you. Okay, you get the idea. Fortunately, a diminishing scene in Northern Ireland, but that's not about. I'm going to ask, what do people see? What do people see in that video? Hatred? Absolutely. Okay, hatred. We've got young person. We've got hatred. Yeah, and the immediate obvious thing is to focus in on the young person throwing a stone. Isn't that terrible? What we do in terms of criminology, what we do here at Queen's, we get you to take a step back from some of the minutiae. As somebody talked about hatred, looking, why does a young person, probably it's hard to, I don't know what their age was, why did a young person feel obliged and compelled to throw a missile at a group of people they don't even know? What about the wider social and cultural context of parades? What about the rights of the parade? What about the rights of the counter-protesters? What about the human rights of the police officers trying to enforce that? What about the Parades Commission determinations around that? What about the wider social, political, cultural environments underpinning the continuing nature of divided sectarian society in Northern Ireland? So from a very superficial, small incident, we can start to see this is what we begin to do. And these are the sorts of approaches we take in the classroom. And again, I could have shown you something, prisons, cybercrime, but because my area is policing, I wanted to hone in on that. We also have a lot of connections. Many of us are associated, not just in the day job, but out in the voluntary community, NGO sector. Through our work, we have links to the criminal justice system. I suppose in hindsight, I wouldn't have done this, but it's the ultimate form of academic narcissism to do a criminology talk and put a picture of yourself on the slide. That's me with a picture of former Deputy Chief Constable Stephen Martin. So we do tend to bring criminal justice professionals in, and they get to engage with you in the classroom, tell you how things work in the real world as well. As part of our criminology degree, these are many of the very, very important skills you need, potentially, out in the real world of work. The slightly glowing one in the middle, for me, is the most important product of the criminology degree here, critical thinking. As I said, we live in a world which is saturated in information, disinformation, misinformation. There's a lot of information out there. So having the skills, the capacity, the ability to synthesize that, work with that. I think as if you go back even, back to the classics, hundreds of centuries ago, as Aristotle once said, it was the sign of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Never could that be truer, I think, in 2024 in our world of dubious information. So how do we make sense of all that and do that working with other people, while being sensitive to the very polarized world in which we live, because it is about understanding different perspectives and experiences as well. What I would say is this: as part of any degree, particularly your criminology degree, you will encounter subjects and issues and social problems that perhaps you've never encountered before as part of your degree. Or you will look at old issues, what if you want to call them that, in ways which you have never considered. And what we find is that very much guides you in terms of your future career. A criminology degree, and I use the analogy as this, like a law degree, only a fraction of people who do a law degree ever go on to be qualified lawyers or barristers, okay? We are a broad-based social science degree which opens the world into criminal justice system, voluntary and community sector, analytical sectors, and so on. So that is something to bear in mind, you know, and certainly a primary degree in criminology or BA in criminology is one of, is the first step on your journey into that wider world. So a very brief snapshot, some of the things we will discuss and you would look at as part of our criminology degree.